Welcome to the 48WS podcast, created for B2B construction supply companies who want to grow their business online. At 48WS, we bring unmatched expertise to the table. Our leadership team includes Dan Tsujioka, President and CEO, who was part of the founding group of The Home Depot and later helped Whitecap Construction Supply grow into a multi-billion-dollar national distributor of construction supplies. Alongside him is Rick Gagnon, Executive Vice President and Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, whose sales and brand strategies helped expand Whitecap from a single store to 165 nationwide. Together, they represent over 100 years of combined construction supply industry experience since 1997. They have been building, maintaining, and hosting websites with a proprietary in-house database and design template that can get companies online in just 48 hours with over 500,000 products from more than 1,500 manufacturer lines. Unlike other web design firms, 48WS knows your business, your products, and your customers' preferences, and we manage all product maintenance and updates for you. In today's episode, we'll explore an unconventional but highly effective marketing strategy, podcasting for construction supply companies. We'll explain how hosting a podcast positions your company as a thought leader, why prospects pay more attention when marketing doesn't feel like marketing, and how our turnkey podcast service makes it affordable, quick to implement, and completely managed by us. From audio production to hosting playlists on YouTube, cover art, MP3 to video conversion, website integration, and promotion via email and social media.
You know what's wild? Companies are crushing it on podcasts. Yeah, you heard that right. Today we're diving into how the seemingly unlikely combo of hard hats and headphones is revolutionizing B2B market and the surprising ROI that's making traditional marketers do a double take.
Wow, it's fascinating because this isn't just a random trend. According to research, the B2B podcasting has emerged as one of the most effective ways to build through leadership and actual content with decision makers.
But wait, construction supplies like nuts and bolts and cement? How does that translate to engaging content?
Well, that's exactly what makes it so powerful. See, traditional marketing, old school marketers in this space has always been very well traditional. Catalogs, the old-fashioned catalogs, trade shows, cold calls, but our industry has evolved, and so have the buyers.
Go on, Dan.
Recent studies show that the B2B buyers are now consuming content much like B2C consumers. They want value, authenticity, relationships before they even think about making a purchase.
And I guess that's where podcasting comes in?
Exactly. According to the latest data, B2B podcasts focused on industry expertise and thought leadership see engagement rates up to 40% higher than traditional marketing content.
You know what's interesting about that? It's almost like the less it feels like marketing, the better it works as marketing.
So true. Absolutely right. And here's what's fascinating. Construction supply companies are finding that when they share their expertise through conversation rather than the old-fashioned sales pitch, that credibility skyrockets.
But let's get practical here. How are these companies actually implementing this?
Well, they're working with specialized podcast production companies, professionals like us at 48 that understand both in construction industry. The key is making it easy and affordable.
And what kind of content are we talking about here?
Everything from industry trends, best practices, to specific product applications and problem-solving discussions. It's really about sharing a real knowledge that we have that helps their customers do their jobs better.
You know, it's almost like they're building relationships the same way they build structures, piece by piece with a solid foundation.
Yeah, great analogy. Just like in construction, the quality of the materials matters. The content has to be genuine and valuable.
But surely there must be challenges. What are the companies struggling with?
Well, the biggest concern is usually about time, the biggest thing, and resources. Many worry it'll be too complicated or expensive.
And how are they addressing these concerns?
We're working with specialized agencies that handle everything from production to distribution. Recent data shows that outsourcing podcast production can save companies up to 15 hours per episode.
That's a significant savings.
Yeah, and it's just about time. These agencies also help integrate podcasting with other digital marketing efforts like websites, SEO, email marketing, social media, etc.
So it becomes part of a larger strategy?
Absolutely. According to marketing studies, integrated content strategies that include podcasting see a 3% higher engagement rate than those that don't.
That's pretty compelling. But let's talk about what's important. ROI. How are these companies measuring success?
Well, they're looking at multiple metrics: listener engagement, lead generations, and more importantly, the quality of, in our business, as you well know, relationships built with potential clients.
And what are they seeing?
They're seeing companies report that leads generated through these podcast content are converting, listen to this, up to a rate of 25% higher than traditional marketing channels.
That's impressive, but I'm curious about the content creation process. How do they keep coming up with relevant topics?
Well, they actually letting their customers guide the content. They're addressing real questions and challenges that come up day-to-day operations on the field.
So it's almost like market research and marketing combined?
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so valuable. They're not just broadcasting, they're having real conversations about real issues.
Okay, let's talk about the technical side. What kind of setup do these companies need?
Well, where they're working with professional construction marketing companies comes in place. They handle all the technical aspects like creating content, equipment, editing, and distribution.
And as always, what's the cost?
Oh, yeah. According to industry data, professional podcast production services start around $150 per episode, which includes editing and distribution, which really is.
That seems pretty reasonable considering the potential return. But I'm definitely curious about what the cost are for the specific industry.
Especially when we compare it to traditional marketing costs, like trade shows where travel and hotels, booths and everything else, and time, off the sales floor, or print advertising. To answer your second point, we'll talk more about that later.
Speaking of traditional marketing, how are companies integrating this into their existing strategies?
They're using podcast content as a cornerstone for their entire digital presence. Episodes get their purpose into blog posts, social media, which is huge, and email newsletters.
So one piece of content serves multiple purposes?
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so efficient. Recent studies show that repurposed podcast content, generate up to 300% more engagement across different platforms.
Let's talk about the future. Where do you see this trend going?
Well, all indications are point to huge continued growth. B2B podcast listenership has increased by 45% in the past year alone.
Whoa, that's significant growth.
And what's really interesting is how challenging the way B2B buyers make decisions. They're increasingly relying on educational content before making purchasing choices.
So it's not just about the intermediate sale anymore.
No, it's about building long-term relationships again through valuable content, authentic engagement with your end user.
How are companies measuring this long-term
Customer
impact?
long-time growth, value, referral rates, and quality of leads generated through podcast content.
What are they finding?
The companies with consistent podcast content are seeing up to 40% higher customer retention rates and a 50% increase in referral business.
Oh, those are pretty compelling numbers.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting, how this is changing the concept and perception of the construction supply companies. They've been seen as though leaders rather than just vendors.
It's almost like they're building their brand the same way they built their companies, with quality materials and expert knowledge.
Absolutely. It's just like the way we did it, Whitecap, Home Depot, and all those. It's generating, construction, foundation matters most, and solid content strategy built on real expertise creates the lasting value.
So what advice would you give to companies considering this approach?
Start with what you know best, as always, huh, Rick? Focus on sharing genuine expertise and solving real problems for your customer. The marketing results will follow naturally.
How about working with professionals who can handle the technical side?
Yes, sir. Just like you hire experts to do your taxes. Working with podcast professionals ensure quality and efficiency, and it's fascinating how this shift is happening. According to research, 90% of B2B decision makers say through leadership content increases their trust in suppliers.
Whoa, wait, 90%. That's huge.
Yes, sir. That's what's even more interesting. 76% of decision makers are actually willing to pay a premium to work with organizations that consistently produce through leadership content.
So you're telling me that not only does it build trust, but it actually justify higher prices?
Yes. With our expertise in this area, for the construction supply companies specifically, podcasting offers unique advantages. Think about it. There are often complex products that benefit from detailed explanation and real world application.
It's kind of like building a structure. You're building trust and authority layer by layer.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. Just like in construction, you need the right foundation. The key elements for successful branded podcasts, including understanding your audience, aligning content with those brand values, and then maintaining high production quality.
Speaking of production quality, what's the investment like for companies considering this? I know we touched a little on this before, but I want to drill into specific details for B2B construction supply podcasting cost.
Well, according to our current market data, professional podcast production services normally start around $70 per episode, but most B2B companies invest between $150 to $350 per episode for full service production. That's because full service goes beyond editing. It includes script writing, narration, video, conversion, branded cover art, social media promotion, and even email marketing campaigns.
That's actually more affordable than I expected for a professional marketing tool.
Absolutely right. Compared to traditional marketing channels like trade shows or print ads, it's incredibly cost effective. Plus, podcasts create long-lasting content that continues working for you.
Even though the costs are low, considering what you're getting, I think that most business owners in construction supply also have concerns about the time and work that they would also have to invest to produce a podcast, even though they would be excited about its obvious marketing value. Can you expand more on what kind of workflow would be involved that would address these concerns while also producing quality content that will resonate with their customers, along with helping them understand some of the variability in the cost range?
Of course, let me break down what the workflow looks like and why the cost scales up. First, you got to have a script writing team or a quality person bringing in digital marketing expertise to craft messaging that resonates with their audience. The client would be responsible for that. The screenwriter with the podcast marketing agency would, although that would be welcome to add some of their own insights. Then AI narration tools can replace their voice so that they don't even need to record themselves for each episode. Next comes auto editing, polishing the sound professional finish. From there, we turn the audio into video content for YouTube and social media, design branded cover art, and schedule posts across their channels. Finally, we promote the episode through email platforms like Constant Contact, ensuring it reaches their existing network directly. When you add up the value of each step, which would provide, the total investment per episode typically falls between $245 and $450. That's why the $150 baseline is realistically for basic production, but most companies choose the full service approach because it maximizes reach and, importantly, impact.
But with all the AI generated content out there now, Why are podcasts becoming
Well,
more
I think
important?
that's what actually the point of podcasts more valuable in a world of AI content. As Google increasingly uses AI to highlight the best content, authentic human voices and genuine expertise stand out even more. Podcasts aren't just about filling space, they're about building real connection, and the authenticity is exactly what search engine reward.
Makes sense. How are construction supply companies actually using these podcasts?
They're using them in really different creative ways. Some focus on industry trends, innovations. Others share customer success stories and projects. And many use them to explain complex technical specifications in an accessible way on their projects.
And I imagine it helps that people can listen while they work, right?
Yes, construction professionals often have long commutes or time on the job sites where they can listen and learn. It's perfect for their lifestyle.
What about the actual format? What works best?
Well, research shows interview style podcasts work particularly well in B2B settings. They allow companies to showcase industry experts while keeping content engaging and conversational.
And how long should these episodes be?
Anywhere from 15 to 60 minutes, but the sweet spot tends to be around 20 to 30 minutes, long enough to get the main project's depth, but short enough to fit in a lunch break or in between projects.
Let's talk about results, Dan. What kind of ROI are companies seeing?
The numbers are really impressive. According to studies, 92% of C-level buyers are more willing to pay a premium to work with suppliers they consider through leaders.
92%? That's massive.
Yeah, and that's just about direct sales. Podcasts help companies build long-term customer relationships, establish themselves as industry authorities.
So how does that translate to actual business impact?
They report shorter sales cycles, higher close rates, better customer retention when they consistently produce quality podcast content.
But it has to be quality content, right? You just can't wing it.
Absolutely not. Success requires a clear strategy, consistent publishing schedule, and professional production values.
What about getting started? What is the first step?
Okay, the first step is defining your podcast purpose and who the target audience is. Are you focusing on technical education industry, trends, or customer success stories?
And then finding the right production partner?
Yeah, but make sure you look for partners with B2B experience. The approach for business podcasts is quite different from consumer shows.
What about promotion? How do companies get their podcast in front of the right audience?
Well, that's crucial. The most successful companies integrate their podcast into their broader marketing strategy, sharing episodes across all social media, email newsletters, and their websites.
And I imagine industry events and trade shows are good opportunities too.
Sure. Many companies record specific episodes at industry events and feature prominent speakers they meet there.
What about measuring success? What metrics should companies track?
Well, yeah, beyond downloading numbers, look at engagement metrics like episode completion rates, how the subscriber growth, and more importantly, business impact. Metrics like lead generation and sales influences.
Can you share any specific success stories?
Yes, one construction company saw their leadership podcast drive 11,704% increase in audience engagement over 6 months.
Wow, that's incredible. How did they achieve that?
Well, we really focused on solving real customer problems on the site, featured authentic industry voices, and maintained consistent high-quality production.
What common mistakes should companies avoid?
The biggest one is too promotional, inconsistent publishing, and poor audio control. Remember, it's providing value first.
Speaking of value, how do you balance educational content with business goals?
Well, the key is focus 90% on valuable insight and education, letting your expertise naturally showcase your company's capabilities.
That makes sense. What about guest selection?
Yeah, absolutely. Look for a mix of internal experts, industry leaders, and satisfied customers. Variety keeps content fresh and engaging.
And how often should companies be publishing new episodes?
Well, most successful B2B podcasts publish bi-weekly or monthly. It's better to maintain quality with fewer episodes and rush content out weekly.
Final advice for construction supply companies considering podcasting?
Well, start with a clear strategy. Invest in quality production and focus on providing genuine value to your audience. The business results will
And
follow.
what about budget considerations?
Well, think of investment of your brand's future. With professional production starting around $150 per episode, it's actually quite cost effective compared to traditional marketing.
How long should companies commit to podcasting before expecting results?
Well, most companies are meaningful engagement within 6 to 12 months of consistent publishing. It's about building momentum and trust over time.
That's really helpful context. Any last thoughts?
Yes, today's digital age, having human voice for your brand is more valuable than ever. Podcasting isn't just about content, it's about connection.
So when you step back from everything we've covered, what's the key takeaway?
Let's see. Well, that podcasting isn't just another marketing channel. It's a powerful tool for building authority, trust, lasting relationships in the construction supply industry. Once again, about relationships.
It seems like the time to start is now.
Exactly. With 92% of C-level buyers willing to pay more for thought leaders, the opportunity is too significant to ignore.
At 48WS, podcasting is more than just audio. It's a fully integrated marketing tool designed to keep your audience engaged and connected to your brand. Each episode is hosted on YouTube, organized into playlists so listeners are more likely to keep listening, and supported with custom cover art and branded background. We convert your MP3 podcast episodes into video format, place them directly on your website, and promote them through email campaigns and social media channels to maximize reach. This podcast service is part of our comprehensive digital marketing suite, which also includes website design and hosting, advanced SEO optimization, constant contact email marketing, and social media management. By combining these services, we create a seamless strategy that helps construction supply companies attract new customers, strengthen their reputation, and stand out as thought leaders in their industry. We encourage you to preview our podcast on the 48WS YouTube channel to see the quality and professionalism we deliver. You've worked hard to build your company's success. Now let us help you market it online with tools that are affordable, quick to implement, and completely turnkey. To learn more or get started, email Dan Tsujioka directly at dan@48ws.com. At 48WS, we don't just build websites, we help construction supply companies build their future. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We hope you learned a lot.